Here we go. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Allison Foster with Delta Mega, and we are just so pleased to have you all here today. We've got a great presentation for you, and so I'm very pleased to introduce you to Dr. Cindy Prins, who's with the University of Central Florida. She's presented on this session on presenting the scientific poster session several times in the past, and I tell you, every time I find it really, really interesting, and I myself learn tips and tricks to use in the future. So I know she's going to have a lot of good information for you. So if you do have any questions during the presentation, go ahead and put them in the chat, and then we will answer them at the end. So Dr. Prince, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Allison. I am going to start my slideshow, and I think that I have to swap here. So let me do a swap. There we go. Hopefully that is okay. So I'm really excited to be with you all today. I'm sorry that we, can't actually have verbal questions, but happy to take those chat questions. As Allison mentioned, this is Tips for Designing an Effective Poster, and I am the past president now of our National Delta Omega, and also an associate professor in Florida. So some learning objectives for the day, going to explain the purpose of a research poster presentation, choosing your poster formatting options that are going to make your poster a little bit easier for people to read and interact with, outlining the steps involved in creating a poster, and then share tips for the poster presentation session. So what is a poster meant to be? So per APHA, which many of you are going to be presenting for, but I think this is pretty general to most poster presentations. It's a graphic presentation of an author's research. And so that graphic presentation is going to be important. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Authors illustrate their findings by displaying graphs, photos, diagrams, and a small amount of text. Again, emphasis there on small amount on the poster boards. Authors will hold discussions with attendees who are circulating among the poster boards. So a couple really important things there. You really want to make this visual to help people understand it without having to stand there and read a lot. And then the other part of it is you're going to be interacting with people who come to see your poster at APHA. You're going to have discussions. And so you don't have to put everything on your poster because you're going to be able to present a lot to the people who actually stop by. So knowing some of the details is important. At APHA, their poster boards are 4 feet wide by 8 feet tall. You do not have to have an 8-foot tall poster. That would be very, very tall. So, this recommended just happens to be on the graphic I pulled. It's not that I'm recommending that, but a 44 by 90 poster fits really well within the area of the APHA poster board. Or you can have a 36 by 72, and that's also going to fit well. And it just depends on your own needs or what you want to present. So for the fonts, this is always a question for folks, and I can tell you that as I get older, my eyesight gets a little bit worse, and it is nice to have font that I can read really easily when I go see your poster. Main findings in your poster should go between about 72 and 150 point font, and that's what I'm showing here. So if you've got something that you're really looking to highlight, you want to obviously use that larger font. APHA does give guidelines for creating accessible posters that, people, if they maybe have any kind of, visual impairment or any other, if they're red, green, colorblind impairment, that they're going to be able to see well. So I definitely recommend that you go there and look at those guidelines, and you will get a copy of this presentation later on, and then you'll be able to go to this link and look for those accessibility guidelines. So other text should be at least a 36 point font. You want to, the 36 point, so again, it's just going to be big enough that people are going to be able to stand a couple of feet away from your poster and still be able to read it. And what happens is In a poster session, you may get lots of people gathered around your poster. You may be talking to one person. There may be two or three people behind them who are trying to read the poster over their shoulder. And so you want to make it so that people are going to be able to see it from a little further away because they may not all be able to get right in front of your poster to read it. You want to use a sans serif font. So sans serif font, it's this kind of font. It's these fonts that have it's different from a serif font. So a serif font has these decorative lines. You see how the T is crossed there and the V has a little line on the top. It's a little bit of a fancier font, but it's also harder to read, a serif font. So there are times when you may want to use that, but it's not the best choice for a poster presentation where you're looking for ease of and readability. So these sans serif fonts, you can see they don't have those lines. They don't have this thing on like the V. They're much cleaner. They're much easier to read. So some suggestions: Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, Verdana. These are all written in the actual font that is named here, and they're all in 22-point font here, just so that you can get an example of what they look like. And the other part of this is you can also get an example of the fact that Calibri and Arial are maybe a little bit of a smaller font. If you look at Verdana, these are all 22-point, but this is actually kind of a bigger font, it looks like to me, like a wider font. There's more spacing between the letters. So keep that in mind. If you're having trouble with your spacing, you may actually want to go to a font that has a little bit less spacing in between. So that was spacing between letters, but then there's line spacing. So your line spacing should be between 1.2 and 2.0. And so that is when you go into the paragraph, if you're going into, say, for example, if you're making this in PowerPoint, if you go into paragraph and look at the drop down, it'll show you line spacing options. And so you can select what the line spacing will be. If you put those lines too close together, then your poster gets harder to read. So I have an example here on the left of your screen. This is line spacing at 1.0. You may have something brilliant to present, but you're going to make it really hard for people to read it. They may just opt to skip your poster. They would miss out on some brilliant work, we know, if they did that. Here's line spacing at 1.5. Much easier to read because there's more space in between. People are going to be more drawn to your poster. And just think about how they're all going to gather around you and they're going to start cheering because you know how to design a great poster. So, give yourself a little bit of space in that poster so that people are going to be happy to go read it. In terms of colors, make sure that you're using a couple of colors. You don't want it all to be, one color, black and white. It's just not eye-catching. So get two or three complementary colors and shades for the poster. Be mindful of how you are presenting your colors though. So if you have a light background, you want to use a dark font so that you get good contrast. It's easy to read. You can see that here's a light background with a light font. It's a lot harder to read. And then conversely, it's fine to use a dark background if you want, but use a light font. Don't use a dark font on a dark background. This is super tough to read. And people actually, they make these mistakes. They do this. I was looking at something before. It was a Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. It was actually a chart, and one of them was a yellow background with white lettering. And I thought, okay, I can't even read this. This is almost impossible for me to look at. So just be mindful of that. So here's an example of a not great poster, and there's a link at the bottom. This is a person who posts some of these examples so you can kind of see what not to do. I mean, there are a couple fun things on here. Like this is, sort of a fun eye-catching graphic, but, you know, it's just that there's a lot of text on this poster. The spacing isn't very good. You have, a very dark background and you don't necessarily get anything that really stands out within the body of the poster. It's also a little bit hard to figure out like, okay, abstract, introduction, do I go down here to conclusions or do I go over? So, it doesn't have a really good logical progression of how someone should read the poster. And when you create a poster, it's your poster, right? So you get to guide people through your poster. You get to tell them with the way you design it how they should be reading the poster. So this is a little bit nicer looking. You can see that they've used some really nice complementary colors, that things stand out. Um, they don't have as much text. And one thing to note in particular is they've got a lot of bullet points, and bullet points make things easier for people to read. Really like the graphics that they presented as well. And so looking specifically at the title line, so in pieces, food is more filling when pre-cut into pieces. Well, that's interesting. That's a really catchy title, and that tells me something about the poster and also draws me in and makes me want to learn more about it. So keep that title short, make 2 lines maximum. You don't have to do this, sort of couple of words, colon, and then something else, but it can be effective if it's appropriate for your study. Make sure you list your contributing authors underneath and then the affiliations. And here they only put Cornell University, but they had the Food and Brand Lab that they've posted up here on the left side of the poster. You may want to actually put your college or your department on here as well. And then include some contact information. So make sure somewhere on your poster there's some way for them to get in touch with you. And you can see here they chose to put this at the bottom of the poster rather than right underneath their name. And anything is appropriate. Just make sure that there is some contact info. So I mentioned layout, that you want to lead people through your poster, and you'll often see a 3-column layout. So most people are going to read posters from top to bottom and then from left to right. So I'm going to go through this column all the way, then I'm going to jump to the middle column all the way. And when you keep it to these 2 or 3 neat columns, it does make it easier for people to follow what you're trying to tell them, to follow your story. And then your figures, if at all possible, should fall into these columns as well. And this is figure 1, my cat Guppy. And Guppy may make an appearance in a little bit because he will get hungry by 4 o'clock, so he may show up. I'm hoping not, but. And then the next is density. So this is kind of what I alluded to before. You don't want to put everything about your study onto your poster. We all think we want to have every word on there. We want to write something so that we don't have to remember details, or so that if someone goes and looks, they've got the entire, poster and the entire explanation. But what happens is people get turned away because, this is a really dense poster. No offense, NASA. This is a really dense poster. There's so much information, and to me, this is overwhelming. And again, I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to read this poster. When I go through here, where do I start? Okay, probably at the overview, but then do I go here? Do I go here? I have no idea. So keep that text to a minimum, just really what people need to know about the poster. Make sure that you do give a background. You want to provide some methods as well, enough that they understand not just what you did, but also did you do things the right way, right? So you want to make sure that you have information on there about IRB somewhere put. This poster or this project was approved by University of Happy Town IRB or whatever it is. And then go through, so background, you've got a little bit of maybe a research question, you're going to put in your methods, and then you have results, and then you have a discussion, and possibly some limitations as well. But don't put everything on the paper. The reason that you're standing in front of that poster is so that you can answer their questions and give some of the details yourself. Also creates a really good opportunity for them to ask questions, right? So if you don't put everything on there, then they're probably going to have a couple of good questions to ask you. And that allows you to then engage with them and creates that conversation about your work. In terms of figures, if you have images like photo images, make sure you're saving them at 300 dots per inch or DPI. So you can see the difference here between a res and low res image. This low res image is very pixelated. So it might look okay when, you see it online. If you're, getting an image off the internet or something, it may not look too bad. But the problem is when you zoom in on it to put it on your poster and make this big, then it actually may look very pixelated. And in fact, if you didn't have the converse resolution over here to the left of it, you might not even know what this image is supposed to be. Keep your graphs simple and uncluttered. So here, this is a nice uncluttered chart. You've got some information about what these categories are, and you've got labels for each of them. But here you've got, additional information where, there's these little call outs are going on each of the bars, and it makes it very, very complicated to start to read. And in fact, like I can't really see the top of some of these bars to even know where they fall. So, if this information is something you want, you could change the scale on the y-axis to be a little more exact. If you want people to know this is 4.3, you could make this a half point scale, right? So half point, 1.5, for example, so that they can get a better idea of where this falls. But just don't overwhelm people with information. Okay, and then so this is just another example of a poster so that, let's see if I can get this, sorry, my panel, there we go. I had to hide my panel. Okay, so the title is formatted in sentence case. It doesn't spill onto the third line, ideally, as I mentioned. I think this person just has a problem with hot pink. I don't have a problem with hot pink. I like hot pink. So you do whatever color you enjoy as long as it's very visible. And again, just kind of showing you that this takes you through a progression of the poster. In this case, he did 3 columns, but then left sort of this bottom area to be the extras. So the literature cited, the acknowledgments, and then any further information. This is another option for posters, and this is something that's come up in the past few years, and you'll see the APHA mentioned this as well. And so the idea here is really to make the middle of your poster the focus of what you found, right? So in this poster, documenting spatial variability in Arctic tundra snowpack using high resolution remote sensing. So their main finding was snow is not distributed evenly across the tundra. We use drones to map resolution and changes in snow depth over the winter. So they've got this very engaging photo. They've got this very large text so that from across the room, you can look at this poster and go, wow, I want to go see that. That's really fascinating. They do still have all of the information. They've got the title, they've got the author details. There's an introduction. Here are some methods. And then they get some results here as well. These may wind up being a little too tiny, these results. It depends on what they're trying to show. And then they've got some take homes. And then the really fun thing is, and it should work now if you want to try it, you can scan this QR code. And if you scan that QR code, that actually takes you to a YouTube video where in their case, they're showing you flying this drone out of the tundra. They're showing you how they collect their data. And so there may be some creative way for you to link your own poster to a video talking more about what you did, or maybe even if you've worked with people, keep in mind you have to have IRB permission if you get your research participants to do this, but there could be some fun linkage to other people talking about your work as well. So you can consider doing that. It's definitely a different way of looking at things, and it really makes the focus on sort of the what we did and what we found rather than the, let me take you through the whole thing. So steps in creating the poster, it's important to give yourself at least a couple of weeks to create and edit the poster. And I would say give yourself even a little bit more time if you have collaborators, and in particular more than one, who all will want to review the poster. and they should have that opportunity to look at it. If their names are on it, they should be able to look at that poster. So you're going to want to give yourself some time to go through that process. To get started, just do an outline of what you want to present. Don't necessarily try to fit it all into the boxes yet. Start to write it out, put out your bullet points, and think about what it is that you want to present in terms of figures and text. And then from there, you can build your poster either in PowerPoint or you can do it in Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to ask Allison a question. Allison, did we have a Delta Omega template still for this?
We sure do. Yeah, I sent it to all the poster presenters, and if they need a copy, they can just send us a quick message and we'll get it right back out.
Excellent, thank you. So we've got that template. If your collaborators, are they required to use the template, Allison? That's what I should ask.
No, but if you're presenting at the Delta Mega Poster Session at APHA this year and you don't want to use the poster template, that's fine. But we just ask that you add our logo to your posters so we can brand the whole poster session as Delta Mega. So at the very least, add the logo.
Thank you, appreciate that. Right, so if you have a collaborator who said, no, 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 I want to make sure we use our center's, approved template that we always use, perfectly fine, just please add that logo. So you'll build it out and then you're going to start writing and then you're going to edit and then you're going to edit again. So make sure you go over your poster multiple times. One nice trick, if you're building in PowerPoint, I find that it's not always very good for doing spell check and grammar check. So take all of your text and put it into Word. Word will let you spell and grammar check it, and then you can copy that from there and put it into your poster. Ask for feedback from professors and from your peers and co-authors. Just make sure that you get people to read it. Even when you do spell check, I find that sometimes I still miss little things, right? I put an instead of and sometimes that doesn't always get picked up. So other people may find that a little easier than you do after you've looked at it multiple times. And then save the poster as a PDF. Print it to 8.5 by 11 paper if you can, to legal size paper, to see if it's big enough. So you want to kind of hold it out at arm's length, see if you can read it there, see if other people can. Are your figures, do they look good? Are all of the little figure labels on there legible, readable? How do the images look? Are they pixelated or do they look pretty good? And then you want to zoom in as well to make sure that all of those things are still readable when it's going to be in a larger format. And then when you get to that great point where you're like, all right, I got a poster, hooray, it's in electronic form, but you need to print it for APHA. So you want to print your poster at least 3 to 4 days in advance of travel. You want to do it early because if something gets messed up, you want to be able to fix it and reprint it if you need to. You can look for poster printing options on your campus. Those are typically pretty cost effective, or there may be a local print company that does poster printing that's not very expensive. There is a printing service through APHA. They're a little costly. I think it's 200 to print the larger size poster. So, I mean, to me, that's pretty expensive. I feel like you might be able to print it for free on campus if you plan ahead, or at the very least, you might be paying a little bit less at a local poster printing shop, like maybe $50 rather than, several hundred. The only caveat there is then you have to bring it with you. Another option is you can look for a printing service at the destination that is not kind of the official printing service. So you could look for just, is there a print shop that's going to be nearby where I can send and have my poster printed and pick it up, when I arrive at APHA. Keep in mind, again, you want to make sure that, it's done, that it's going to look good. You're not going to have time to reprint it. So you want to keep all of those things in mind. I would say that I really think the best route is to print it at home several days in advance and then carry it with you. And you can just put that in like a cardboard tube. You don't need a fancy poster carrier. Um, You're going to put it in the overhead, put a sticky note if you need to, or give yourself some reminder that says, my poster is in the overhead, because it is not uncommon to have it be left there. Your printing options, you can use a regular paper. That's going to be your least expensive option. I recommend that, especially if you are not taking that poster home with you. You can use glossy paper. So, sometimes people print on glossy paper because they want to keep their poster, or, someone wants to hang the poster along the wall of their department or something. There's also fabric printing. This is a newer method of poster printing. So it literally gets printed on a piece of fabric. Um, Again, it's got a little more longevity that way. Someone may want to keep it and hang it. There's also this clever idea that you could turn your poster into a tote bag if you want to. So again, it's just another option that you can put out there. Maybe make yourself a pillow. I don't know. When you present your poster, so this is actually an image from APHA of a poster session. The session is going to be 1 hour long. You want to arrive early to set up your poster. Keep in mind, though, that there may be, multiple sessions, right? So you've got to arrive you can't arrive earlier than they tell you, because there may be other people using poster boards. Push pins will be provided for you at the session. Definitely recommend eat something beforehand. So, make sure that you've had breakfast or lunch or a snack or something. Bring something to drink. You're going to be talking to people, so bring some water or something that will allow you to speak a lot without smacking. Don't bring a lot of clutter. So if you can, try to leave book bags and all of lots of things. Leave them elsewhere. Preferably don't go to Expo and get 5 bags worth of swag on the day that you're doing your poster, because you're going to have to wind up putting it all at your own feet. Dress professionally, but dress comfortably. You're going to be on your feet for an hour. There's also a good bit of travel distance between even getting into the expo center and getting to the poster site. So just be aware of that. There is a chair that's provided for anyone who needs it. And it's okay, to sit down if you need to, but find that you will be standing for most of the session if you're able. And then, before you go into session, you want to make sure that you have practiced presenting your poster. So get feedback from faculty and peers. You want your presentation to just be a few minutes long. I would say probably no more than 5 minutes um, of leading someone through your poster. They may stop you and ask questions, so that could take longer, but your spiel you might want to keep to about 5 minutes. Silence and put your phone away. So just don't have your phone out. There may be times when no one is coming by to talk to you. Um, you know, just smile and sit with your thoughts. Just don't pull out the phone every time someone goes away. Greet people. So if someone comes up to your poster, don't be afraid to make eye contact. Just say hi. And what I always do is just say, hey, this is my poster. I'm happy to answer any questions. Or it might also say, would you like me to walk you through the poster? And if they say yes, then you give them your spiel. And if they say, no, I'm good, I'm just reading, say, great, let me know if you have questions, and then move aside and let them read. You can offer to follow up with more information. So if they ask you questions and you don't know the answer, that's okay. You're not going to know every single answer to every question you get asked. So you can just tell them, you know what, I don't know, but I'd be happy to follow up with more information. And if they are interested, you can get their contact information and do that. And then accept feedback graciously. So, a poster session is definitely not the time to get into a scientific argument with someone. So, if someone says, I think you did your methods all wrong, certainly you can say, oh, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Right. So, keep that very open minded sort of like, oh, approach. It doesn't mean you did your methods wrong. It means someone thinks you did your methods wrong. And maybe you want to take that feedback and go talk to an advisor or someone else about whether that's the case. But don't start arguing. It's just not worth it. Um, All right, so that was a lot in a little bit of time, and I am happy to entertain any questions. I also do have a favor to ask, and not necessarily right now, but for my own purposes as a faculty member, I would appreciate any feedback you have on the content of the presentation and on myself as a faculty presenter. So there's a QR code here. This leads to a completely anonymous survey. I don't get IP addresses, latitude, longitude, anything like that. So if you don't mind, if you're willing to, please go ahead and provide that feedback. And I am going to stop my PowerPoint. Okay, I think we're probably good. All right. And Allison, how are we doing in the chat since I have
Yeah,
not
so we've
been?
gotten a couple
Okay.
questions. So one question was, does Delta Mega print the posters for the Delta Mega poster presenters? No, we don't. Um, but Cindy gave you some great tips on options on getting your poster printed. I will actually be presenting also at APHA, and I sent mine as a PDF to Kinko's, and they printed it within about 5 minutes. I just went down the street and picked it up,
Awesome.
and I think it was $60.
Perfect.
So yes, you should not be spending a lot more than that. And I live in the area, so if you're going, I've seen people wait until they get to location because sometimes it's hard to travel with this great big poster and storing it. So there's lots and lots of printing places around here. So if you're going to be arriving a couple days before your session, then you might want to wait. But if you're arriving the night before, your the Delta Mega poster session is at 10:30 on a Monday, so you probably don't want to be running around looking for someone to print your poster on Sunday night. Maybe
Yeah,
you do, but I wouldn't want to cut it that close.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't be comfortable with that, but
Yeah.
um yeah, and then, one more thing that you could potentially do. I haven't tried this ever, but you could print it at home and then send it, for example, to your hotel or something. You might want to call them and ask them, but if you send it kind of to your self-care of the hotel, they might be willing to hold on to it for a couple of days for you.
Yeah.
Just again, be prepared for it to, will it get lost in the mail and that kind of thing. So,
And there's another question about the size. So the poster boards that APHA offers are 4x8. Is that
yes,
right? So I'm
that's
going
right.
to drop, if you want to kind of visualize that, it's pretty big. I didn't print my posters that large, but I'm going to drop a link in here. And if you click on this link, just because Cindy's sharing, you can see there's that
Sorry.
little mosaic of some of the poster presenters from last year. You can see they're really big boards. It's maybe more space than you want to use, but it gives you, there you go, that's great. Gives you lots and lots of space. So you can print, don't go too small.
Yeah.
And if you want to go really large, you've got lots of space.
And it's okay if your poster doesn't have a lot of stuff on it. And so you may actually want to size down a little bit if you don't have a very full poster so that it doesn't look like there's a lot of empty space in it. So this is where I meant like kind of tailor that size to what you're presenting. So, it can be a little smaller if you feel like, oh, I'm going to make this poster so big and it's going to look like I didn't do anything. It won't, but
Yeah,
you can make it smaller.
yeah. And we usually get pretty, at least at APHA, I mean, every conference is different, but there's usually really good traffic. People enjoy
Yeah.
beginning to learn a little bit about what everybody else is doing. So I would anticipate you'll get plenty of folks coming by. And I did see a comment in the chat, and this is a great suggestion is if there is somebody coming by, talk to the other poster presenters.
Yeah,
You can share with each other. It'll give you something to do and make you all look engaged, and then more people want to walk by and hear what you're presenting on.
I love that. That is a fantastic idea. And then you make a
Yeah.
friend, right? So
Yeah.
that never hurts.
Yeah.
Is APHA in the same venue every year? So no, it switches around every year. It is a large meeting, and so it tends to be in a convention center. And I don't know if you can see from this photo the scope of this convention center, like the expo where they have it, but it's enormous. It goes kind of all the way back. So it will change every year, but I feel like the feel of it is the same every year, that it's just a giant cavernous room. It will get a little noisy and it will get a little crowded. And then they do rotate though, right? So I don't remember the last time we were in DC. Do you remember, Allison?
I know there was one in DC pre-pandemic. Oh,
Yeah, I feel
measure
like yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. APHA on their website, you can probably just, search it as well, APHA future meetings or something, and you can find out where they're having their meetings for the next several years if you're interested.
Yeah. Um,
So sometimes a specific workshop conference may provide poster specifications they
mhm,
accept. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for that. So you do want to make sure that you look at the instructions for poster presenters. So when you get your abstract accepted, at some point you should get a link that tells you what the requirements or the specifications are. Um, I have at smaller conferences had to chase people down. I've had to say, what is this going to be? Are you going to actually have these big poster board things like this? Got told yes, and then got told not that long before that no, we're going to have easels. That's a different kind of poster. Now you need a backing. Now you need something else, right? So it is really important to make sure you understand well in advance what the requirements are and what the setup will be.
And there's one more question in the Q&A. Are you all allowed to bring supplemental materials like handouts, flyers, to give to the folks that stop by? Absolutely. I think they'd really appreciate that. It's hard to share that much information in a relatively small space. And so if you want to have handouts, then absolutely bring those along.
And let's see. Okay, yeah, I didn't realize there's Q&A and there's chat, so go back and
Yes.
forth. Did we cover, let me see. Yeah, so I think, yeah, in terms of supplemental materials,
Yeah.
absolutely, maybe even bring a couple of CVs in case, or resumes in case you want to hand them to someone who's, looking for people for positions. I don't think that happens that often, but it can't hurt to do that,
Yeah.
or for graduate school even.
Yeah.
And then we had Jean-Paul posted the next couple of APHAs. So we're in San
Oh,
Antonio next
good.
fall, and then in Philadelphia in 2027.
Good to
Yay,
know.
Philadelphia. Yay,
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Okay. Well, good.
Yay.
Well, Dr. Prince, this has been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing. She did provide a PDF that I'm going to email everybody that registered for this and to all the poster presenters. Oops, whoops, we have one more question. Do we need to add the conference title to our poster?
Oh, that's an interesting question. No, you don't have to. I think that most people don't put the conference title on the poster. You certainly can if you want to. If you want some sort of embedded reminder of where you presented it, but you definitely don't have to. As I think of that though, one thing you do want to do, and I didn't put this in my presentation, and I'm going to add it next time. Make sure that you write this on your CV, right? So this is going to be under poster presentations. You are going to put down, just like you would a publication, the authors, the title of the poster, where you presented it. So this would be at the whatever number meeting of the American Public Health Association annual meeting in Washington, D.C. from November, again, whatever that is. I can't remember the dates now, 2nd through, the 5th or whatever it is. So make sure that you record that so you don't forget it later on that you presented.
Yeah, and I couldn't have gotten a better segue for the reminder that we have two more of these professional development webinars coming up on the 6th of October. We're going to have a presentation on attending a conference. If you haven't been to APHA, it's sort of next level, and there actually are really useful tips how to make the most of it. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost. And then on the 20th of October, our presentation will be on creating a professional CV. So thank you, Cindy, for sort of queuing up that topic, and we'll be talking about that on the 20th. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Those of you that are going to be at the Delta Mega session, I am super excited about meeting you. I'll come around and take your picture and shake your hand so we'll get to meet in person. And then everybody else that's on, I hope that you have plenty of opportunities to share your great research and that this webinar was helpful to you. And we hope to see you on the 6th and the 20th. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to hopefully meeting many of you in person then.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.